Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus. He's joining us in a few minutes from now. Honorable ministers here present, the Honorable Minister for Finance, Republic of Liberia, the Honorable Minister for Commerce and Industry, Kingdom of Eswatini, our very distinguished ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished business leaders, just to mention a few, Dr. Barry Benoit, Chairman of Contact Group Global, distinguished academics, and just to mention Professor Samuel of the Niger Delta University, other distinguished leaders, leading academics, military leaders. We have General Vincent Nundue, the head of the Defense Forces of Malawi. And forgive me if I didn't mention your name, but permit me to stop here. And distinguished leaders, my friends, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It always gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to events such as this, and especially the 2021 edition of the African Persons of the Year Investiture Ceremonies. This event has always taken place physically in South Africa, and because of the very peculiar year where we experienced last year and what we're still recovering from COVID-19, we're forced to have this very first virtual version of the African Persons of the Year event. Persons of the Year Award was conceived as a platform to recognize and celebrate the exceptional contributions of our African brothers and sisters who continue to hazard their lives in the service of Africa and in the service of humanity. And we're also very excited because their choice for these awards was not by any special interest group or group of editors, but their choice were the choice of ordinary Africans and lovers of Africa everywhere in the world who came out and said, we see what you do, we're proud of the work you do, and we want to celebrate you. So on behalf of all Africans who voted everywhere, may I congratulate all of our winners this year, and thank you for being a part of this ceremony. This year's edition, which is the 9th in the series, attracted over 120,000 votes on the African Leadership Magazine website, got over 7 million active online engagements from Africans, those who had voted and wanted to lend their voice to what they believed in. And we saw quite lots of young people also participating, and women. I think these are exciting times for Africa because the issues of leadership is no more left just for leaders at the top, but for everyday Africans. Therefore, very happy with the growing involvement of Africans in this selection process, and we trust that this will continue to grow, especially because it's been a very challenging year for most people around the world due to the outbreak of COVID-19. And therefore make bold to say that this year's honorees are truly the people's choice. 7 leaders who, by sheer resilience and a commitment to making a difference in the lives of their people, have broken stereotypes and limitations and are actively moving society forward in very remarkable ways. Sometimes even without their notice, they don't recognize how much they've done, but society is watching, and we are truly proud of the great work you do. In Africa, like in most developing world, the inspiring example and impact that one effective leader exemplifies is truly powerful and game-changing, not just for the immediate beneficiaries, but for the world at large. Such leaders become a notable point of reference for what is possible, and also they go to inspire a whole generation of upcoming leaders who look at them and choose to also make their own contributions to society. That's why we've made it our mission to discover and celebrate these outstanding African leaders and institutions, and sometimes unsung leaders. And we wish to continue to position them not just as agents of change, but as enablers who inspire and make society move forward. Therefore, may I say that though this is a recognition for what you've done, it is indeed a call to do more. We have not only used our platform to celebrate African achievers, but have continued to promote our most distinguished leaders for other credible third-party recognitions and global endorsements, supporting leaders in delivering their respective mandates. We're very proud, like you saw in the video, that some of our alumni have gone on to win Nobel Prizes. I'm expecting more Nobel Prizes from the list of African Leadership Persons of the Year. And I really want to encourage you that this is not an end in itself. This is a call to do more and continue to do more. Our high-level events have not only been talk shops, but we've tried to use it to empower businesses. And we're happy to announce that in the last 15 years, we have been able to uh, bring together over $20 billion in deals at our events. And these testimonials encourage us to continue to do what we're currently doing, in spite of the horrendous challenges that we all face. Therefore, welcome you warmly to today's occasion. And as is always the case at our event, today is about celebrating Africa and African success stories. Today is also about renewing our collective commitment to make Africa truly great by addressing some of the challenges that we are faced with. Some of the world's poorest countries are in Africa, and according to a 2018 World Bank report, it is projected that Africa might have 90% of the world's poorest people by 2030 if the current scales continue. This scale of poverty breeds crime, breeds insecurity, health epidemics, and several other challenges that could snowball into global proportions. COVID-19 especially exposed the inherent weaknesses in most of our national polities. These statistics must change, and we are the ones we're waiting for to make that change happen. We are the ones that will make Africa move forward. It is our time, and it is indeed Africa's time. Hence, I'm excited that today we will not just be celebrating leaders, but we would be hearing from some of Africa's finest leaders. I'm excited I'll be listening to His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who has, through exemplary leadership, continued to blaze the trail everywhere around Africa and globally. We're also going to hear a keynote address from His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, as we seek pathways to the future we all desire for our beloved continent. We'll also be hearing from a few other African leaders whose story, I hope, inspires someone to take positive action today. The African Leadership Magazine is passionately committed to fighting the scourge of extreme poverty on the continent through our education-focused corporate social responsibility trust, through awarding of scholarships to indigent African students in secondary schools, currently across 7 countries. We plow back committedly a percentage of our corporate profits, gleaned mostly through advertising and sponsorship of our events, to cater for these children. Consider these children who ordinarily would not have had an education, but for our intervention, our proudest achievement. Your continued partnerships and your continued support of the African Leadership brand has made all of this possible, for which I want to thank all of you. I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate some of our listees in the ALM Top 100 African American leaders. We've made it a point of duty to continue to partner across the Americas, across Europe, and especially intra-African partnerships. We also want to commend the top 25 East African business leaders, which we also have picked and continue to celebrate for the work they do, recognizing that it is the private sector as the growth, so the engine of growth for our nations. Pledge our total support and partnerships to all of these individuals to help them promote their vision, their mission, and help them achieve their objectives. We are also proud to announce the newly minted African Leadership Council, a special platform for leaders and policy titans who are committed to deepening the African reach, building lifetime partnerships for development. You'll be getting more details through your emails on how to engage with the African Leadership Council. Therefore, in closing my address, may I once again congratulate all of our leaders and all of our winners today and encourage you to keep doing it. You've truly made Africa proud, and you've made all of us proud. Continue to remain beacons of hope, not just to current generations, but let your story be told for the future generations of our people. Thank you for listening, and God bless you all.
Indeed. Please, a round of applause. Though we can't all hear one another, we do see the excitement that's building in the room. So thank you so much for opening and setting the stage for us, Dr. Gyami. We want to continue because, you know, one of the exciting pieces about all of the forums that are hosted by African Leadership Magazine is the fact that you get to be in the room, if you will, with some of the top leaders in the African continent, both those current and those who have served for many, many years. And even though the room is virtual today, that there's no exception to that. And so we're going to move into our first keynote address today, one that I'm sure we've all been looking forward to, the opportunity to hear from His Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, the former president of the Republic of Nigeria. He was in his service between 2010 and 2015. He made such major contributions that really were well known and have been well known all around the world to the political, the economic, the social development of this nation, in particular to reframing the story of Nigeria, which is often accurately told through, almost a meme culture, something that's really, really very easy to roll off the tongue and perhaps a little bit glib. So he worked tirelessly to make sure that the true nature of the country came to be known, and that even as it was experiencing the challenges that a nation would, he continued to build the stature of the country, growing the economy to the largest in Africa with a GDP over $500 billion. Now, since leaving office, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan has remained totally committed to promoting democracy, credible elections, peace and respect, and the rule of law throughout Africa. He has a foundation that is very, very committed to continuing this legacy. And the fact that since he has left office, he's continued to receive both continental recognition, but also global recognition as well. Today, he's going to present to us Promoting Sustainable Peace and Security in Africa, Lessons for Political Leaders. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, the former president of the Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. The President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, Their Excellencies are here with us, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to be part of this special virtual award presentation ceremony. We now live in a world different from what we are used to, and our way of doing things is also changing. This virtual award event is one of the manifestations of the new reality occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank the African Leadership Persons of the Year Award Committee for their initiative and consistency in holding the award, which is now in its 9th year. I especially appreciate the chairman, Dr. Ken Gyami, for his commitment to changing the African story. I appreciate the committee for finding me worthy of the African Peace and Security Leader of the Year 2020 award. I also commend other awardees who are prominent African leaders and all others participating in the program today. Awards and recognitions are good because it reassures the recipient that their little contributions to the growth of society have not gone unnoticed. It also comes with a sense of responsibility, which jolts the awardees to the fact that they can no longer go below a certain threshold in the conduct of human affairs. To all of us receiving the award today, it is an urge to do even more. In my own case, I'm delighted that my little contributions towards peace and sustainable democracy in our continent is being recognized. Along this line, I have been asked to share my thoughts on the theme, promoting sustainable peace and security in Africa, lessons for political leaders. This is an important topic, given the time we are in, because of the urgent need to bring an end to growing insecurity, instability, mounting misery, and despair in our society. Drawing from my experience in and out of office, I've come to know that peace building is one of the greatest challenges facing our world today. The results of the 2020 Global Peace Index released by the Institute for Economics and Peace shows a marked deterioration in the level of global peace. It also noted that terrorism and internal conflict have been the biggest contributors to the global deterioration in peace. Leadership commands great influence in the affairs of men, such that the fate of a nation is often interconnected with that of the leader. Leaders that promote peace and build institutions always focus on those deliveries that cater to the needs of our citizens and keep them safe. Relative to other parts of the world, Africa remains a continent that is greatly challenged by insecurity and conflicts. Peace in our continent is mainly threatened by political instability, poor democratic practices, and weak institutions. Many African nations that are today mired in conflicts or just emerging from one often have such crises rooted in the struggle for leadership. In Africa, it appears we see the political process as a civil war or a fraudulent enterprise that has no rules. This is unhealthy for our polity as it impairs our development. I always make the point very clear that there is a clear link between a nation's social and economic standing and its position in the Global Conflict Index. Nations with fewer conflicts and more stable leadership tend to be richer and better off in the human development profile. The nations with the lowest progress on the conflicts on the official United Nations Human Development Index, many of them in Africa, are those that are either poorly governed or embroiled in leadership struggle. That is why I spend my time supporting democracy and peaceful transition of power on the continent, because I know that it is very relevant to our search for good governance, peace, and prosperity in our shores. It is for this reason that the African Union mechanism for promoting peace, security, and stability focuses on providing good governance as a means of tackling such issues as widespread poverty, youth unemployment, illiteracy, and absence of free and fair elections. More than in any other part of the world, self-centered and egocentric contests for power by African politicians have, more often than not, unleashed widespread violence and insecurity on the African soil. When politicians undermine democratic principles and usurp citizens' rights, it creates a situation that impacts negatively on peace and development. This is a recipe for lawlessness, because excessive power obviously elicits negative reaction, as those on the receiving end may be forced to revolt against the system. Let me conclude by stating that the pathway to stabilizing our polity is to improve the quality of governance by sanitizing and strengthening the electoral processes in our continent. That way, the citizens will be in a good position to hold leaders accountable through the ballot. For peace to reign, those who wield power should respect the rule of law, be fair to all, and dispense justice in a manner that promotes equity and boosts the people's confidence in their nations. I thank you all.
And we thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan, for those very, very wise remarks and helping us to really see the correlation between stability of the nation and the economic prosperity of the nation, the peace and its prosperity. We thank you very much for sharing those with us. We want to now bring to the stage, as we begin our recognition of the African Leadership Persons of the Year, we want to bring our first presenter to the stage, if you will. It is His Excellency Ernest Bai Koroma, the former president of Sierra Leone. We know, of course, that he served as the fourth president of Sierra Leone from 2007 until 2018, and that he did this after he had served in the nation's parliament for many years. He, of course, was faced with a most arduous task of rebuilding a country that had been literally devastated by years of war. And he met this challenge with this undying characteristic that he has, this enthusiasm for literally rebuilding. And within weeks of being elected, very systematically, very strategically, he identified the priority sectors that were capable of really helping the economic development of the nation to advance. This approach, of course, paid off, and this much needed confidence and support in this nation was actually being built. And of course, now to his credit, Sierra Leone is reported to be one of the world's most successful cases of post-conflict recovery, as well as peacekeeping. So we want to, of course, bring him to the stage for our first recognition of Person of the Year, His Excellency Ernest Bai Koroma.
Your Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, President Jonathan, Goodluck Jonathan, other excellencies here present. Let me say good afternoon, Africa. Good afternoon, the African Leadership Magazine. Distinguished awardees, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here again to be associated with the sterling work of the African Leadership Magazine and for the unique honor accorded me to present the much coveted Africa Peace and Security Leader of the Year Award. The theme for this year's award, International Leadership, Rethinking Africa's Priorities, clearly resonates with the continent's aspirations for the Africa we want going forward. It calls for a break from the old, ineffectual, and tired development models that are responsible for Africa's slow progress. And it's a rethink that invariably applies to a remodeling of leadership to match up with the new priorities being demanded by the continent's development. I say so owing to the fact that the agenda on global sustainable development that must be applied by all countries shows that Africa is lacking behind. The argument is that, and there is consensus, that aid, which was regarded as a strong component in Africa's development, has lost relevance, with the role of multilateral system being questioned. The new African development model should therefore be one that emphasizes on its own regional and internal markets through the African Continental Free Trade Area. The current global uncertainties have in fact reinforced this argument and underpin the great opportunities which exist in the strengthening of the regional and internal markets, and how such regional and continental solutions will show up governments in addressing their national challenges. Over and beyond the economic arguments is the elephant in the room: democratic governance. Africa will need to reinvent its governance system with the empowering of its youth growing population. The youths in Africa's Development Framework Agenda 2063 is to let them be part of its design and implementation. This is where the Open Government Initiative and the Open Government Partnership should be harnessed and implemented with the ultimate objective of being truly inclusive. The way people identify with development policy is the extent to which they feel that their dignity is being upheld. And has been the argument, as has been the argument elsewhere, inclusivity means that public policies can be reviewed and governance systems can be questioned. Inclusivity is therefore an absolute and essential component in rethinking development. Rethinking Africa's development and governance priorities also means rethinking justice systems to guarantee freedoms and basic human and political rights in a genuine and more predictable way. It requires deliberate building of institutions and respect of their mandates and decisions by political leadership. These are the bedrock for peace and security, which are inseparably linked to development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this now brings me to this year's African Leadership Peace and Security Leader of the Year awardee. Anyone who has followed the presidency and the illustrious post-presidency of our awardee will agree that this is a great choice by the African Leadership magazine. Nothing more poignant about his leadership, legendary, and the peace and security credentials than how he puts his interest of his people and that of the sub-region above his personal interests during the 2020 elections in Nigeria. As the incumbent president, with all the state security and other powers, he presided over the presidential elections in which he was candidate in an open and transparent manner. And even when he clearly had problems with the outcome of the polls, he still acceded to he still assisted to and respected the outcome of the elections, which was the popular will. In his inspirational words, he said, and I quote, my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian, end of quote. Those words could only come from a statesman par excellence and one whose commitment to the peace and security of his people undoubtedly supersedes everything else. Beyond Nigeria, the peace and security credentials of our illustrious awardee have been further burnished by his outstanding peace and security and political engagements across the continent, the latest of which was his adroit handling of the Malian situation. And now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, under the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation is the newly well thought out and much needed West African Elders Forum. He calls it a homegrown, credible platform for former leaders and statesmen who will provide mediation and interlocutory role in addressing electoral and democratic conflict in the region. No doubt, peace and security are in the heart and the veins of this year's African Leadership Magazine Peace and Security Leader of the Year Award. Before I do the presentation, I believe that the excellent work that they have been doing to present Africa at its best and against perpetual dimness being presented by the other sides, Dr. Gayami and his fantastic team deserves a loud round of applause. And now, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Peace and Security Leader of the Year, President Goodluck Jonathan. Congratulations, Mr. President. Thank you.
We want to, of course, continue. I know you're on the edge of your seats, and I also want to appreciate how well we've all adapted to this virtual environment. We love to come together and be together, and part of that is the networking that takes place. So I just wanted to appreciate that I see the networking continuing in the chat right now. And so people are taking the opportunity to exchange ideas, to exchange contact information, and let one another know exactly how we are all serving and in what ways we might be able to serve together. So please continue to do that as the day does continue. But without further ado, I do want to turn it back over to the publisher of African Leadership Magazine. Dr. Gayami has our next set of awardees.
Thank you very much, Wendy. It's again very beautiful being here. And the very next set of awardees, I'll mention 5 names and then end with a very special award of the year, the African of the Year. All of the awards are very significant because they cover one sector or the other, but we always reserve a general central award to one African that we believe made the most significant impact of the year as an African. And we're excited to have it in our midst. I'm going to talk about him briefly very soon. But before I call him up and he will give his remarks and receive the award, let me start by very quickly mentioning Her Excellency. Our next set of awards will quickly go to Her Excellency Greta Mitchell. She is our Climate Champion of the Year. We recognize her for the excellent work she's done and continue to do. We are inspired by her example, and we want to take this minute to give her a few minutes to lift her, to say a few words and then we'll move on to the very next person quickly. So Your Excellency, Dr. Macha.
Mr. President, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, former Presidents Goodluck Jonathan and Dennis Koroma, the Dr. Ken Gyami, Chairman and Publisher of the African Leadership Magazine. Let me first really thank the African Leadership Magazine for the excellent work it has been doing to highlight the positives of what is Africa against the always, presenting Africa as a continent of failure. But through this program, the best of achievements are being highlighted, and the best of leaders who have been driving transformation on the continent as well is being recognized. I was awarded this recognition on climate change. Just as an example, from March 2019 to January 2021, Mozambique has been fustigated by five cyclones. And cyclones which have not been only impacted on Mozambique, but on neighboring countries like Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Botswana. This has raised my consciousness of the impact of climate change on the continent, generally speaking, but specifically in this region of ours. Let me recall also that Idai was registered as the worst climate event ever happened on the Southern Hemisphere. And this upon countries which are considered to be amongst the poorest. That's why I take this recognition with humility and pride as well, to become a sort of a voice of Africans on the price we are paying for climate change, although we were not the maker of the changes which drastically have been happening on the planet. But more importantly, it is to raise the importance of countries developing strategies to mitigate the impact. We are not only victims, but we can come as examples of how we respond, and even we spearhead initiatives which, using clean energy and others, we are at the forefront of transformative response to climate change. And I would like here to emphasize my work with women, which is part of my life passion. And we are trying really to have women to respond in a very positive, dynamic, and connected way, as accepting that we are not victims. We are makers of our own life, of our own future. I want really to thank you very, very much this opportunity, and I take it as a responsibility, as it was mentioned, to do more. And yes, not as a person, but with the networks I've been working with, we will try to do even more. Thank you very much.